Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. We have Craig Burley, Stevie Nicol and myself, Kay Murray. We have actually found something to talk about on this day of international action. Quite a lot of things to talk about, actually. You'll be pleased to hear, Craig. So let's get started with Manchester United. That's where we'll begin the show today.
Oh, there's a shock.
There have been some changes at the top at Manchester United as the club finalises the sale of that 25% minority stake to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. To talk more about this, let's welcome in Mark Ogden and Aage Fjortoft. Mark, let me start by asking what this takeover will actually mean for Manchester United. What's actually going to happen?
Well, first of all, in classic Man United style, it's not a takeover because the Glazers have only sold 25% of the club. But it's almost like, think of it as Jim Ratcliff buying a franchise from the Glazers. The Glazers are going to stay there, or certainly Joe Glazer and Avram Glazer are going to stay there. Jim Ratcliffe's going to run the club. He's going to run the football side of it. And obviously, with Richard Arnold going this week, he's going to have a big say in how the club is run itself. But the Glazers will still own the club. But they basically have decided to pocket £1.5 billion for 25% and leave Jim Ratcliffe to run it. And Jim Ratcliffe's plan is to bring in the experts. Now, easier said than done, because we know in football there's a lot of experts who don't actually stack up to being experts when they get the chance to do the job. But over the years, under the Glazers, United have made too many easy appointments, yes men, people that aren't good enough for the job, and the culture at the club has just drained and drained as a result. And people are texting me every day saying how bad the morale is at the club at every level, from players to staff to club staff. So Jim Ratcliffe coming in, the idea is that he will find a way to bring in best-in-class people, chief exec, sporting director, potentially coach if Erik ten Hag doesn't get results right on the pitch. So I think it's a positive, but you know, we've seen these before at clubs where new people have come in. It doesn't always work straight away, but I think it's good news for Man United.
But turkeys don't vote for Christmas, do they? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. They don't. Richard Arnold voted against Ineos coming in a 25% stake because he knew the writing was on the wall, that they were going to clear him out and clear others out in the football department. So he voted against it, you know, trying to self-preserve, obviously. That hasn't worked. The Glazers are taking a backward step, which is some good news. I mean, I think a full takeover would have been the best, clearly, but it's not. But, you know, getting these people in who've made our people out from, you know, the previous people like Ed Woodward through to Richard Arnold and others that have just made poor decision after poor decision. At least it is a step, and at least it's showing that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, with this huge investment in, is going to be given pretty much the autonomy to make these football decisions, which, let's be honest, are decisions that have been pretty poor for quite some time now. Yeah,
is that the case then, Mark? No Glazers at all in footballing matters?
Well, Joe Glazer will still have a place on the football board, but I think that's just purely a legal thing. But his presence will be there. But basically, they take a back seat because they can't really lose in this scenario. As I said, they've pocketed £1.5 billion, or they will do £1.5 billion for that 25% stake. So they've got that in the bank already, or they will have soon. If Jim Ratcliffe succeeds, the club start winning again. They become a more attractive proposition to sponsors. They win more prize money. The value of the club goes up. So that's a big win for the Glazers. But like I say, if it all fails, they've got £1.5 billion for the trouble of just taking a back seat. So the Glazers will still be involved as backseat drivers, but you know, they'll still be there and the fans won't be happy about that. But I do think that certainly from next summer's transfer window, that's when you'll start to see changes being made, because nothing can happen in the January transfer window. It's going to take maybe 2 months for the investment to be signed off by the Premier League. And by that point, United can't really sign anyone in January anyway, unless they bring money in because of the FFP situation. So if they get Sancho out, and if Saudi Arabia come calling for Varane and Casemiro, which is possible, then they could have some money to spend. But I think it's unlikely. But, you know, next summer's when it'll start to really take off in the eyes of Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe.
Are we going to get through this show today? I don't want him. Stevie, you're going to be presenting in about 10 minutes.
It's that time of year when you've got little kids, trust me.
I heard you today. I'm like... Holy smoke.
OK, you mentioned Jadon Sancho.
The moment it started.
Don't make it worse.